Hello, 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 and welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Jameelah, and I'm a master manifestor, and I'm sure you are too, because you're watching this type of content. The name of this channel is Holistic Manifesting, because I believe it takes a whole body effort in order to create the lives of peace and freedom and expansion that we are choosing, right? So what I'm discussing today is a topic on friendship, right? Because I think it's so important to remember what elements to you make a good friend, right? Sometimes we get into this pick-me phase when it comes to friendships, and we meet people and they're really nice and cool, and we're just like, oh wow, we should go out and we should hang out, we should do this together, what are you working on, that kind of thing. And sometimes we don't really qualify people. We don't qualify them, especially if you're the kind of person that generally may not make connections with people super easy, especially like friendships and stuff like that. And so when people come around, we're just excited to see that somebody's coming around and that they're matching our frequency on some level, right? But how often do we sit around and say, okay, what are the important things that's related to a friendship for me? Like, even if this person is nice, even if they're cool, like, what are the important things that would make a friendship quality or valuable to me? I think in not doing that, we spend a lot of time in the space of making excuses for people and their behavior, right? And have you ever had this happen? It's like if somebody you were friends with, and it's like it was not that great of a friendship in the first place. You already kind of knew that. Well, from your perspective, it didn't click all the way. But you decided to go ahead and just keep them around because you're like, oh, I get rid of people, I did that. And then the person ghosts you like a month later. And so you're just like, well, dang, I was going to get rid of that friendship anyway. And that person beat me to the punch, right? And so sometimes we just have to remember that. And so I was thinking about some things that you can kind of pay attention to when it comes to creating good friendships and good connections, right? So when you meet people, think about how much are they interested in what you have going on and what you're creating in your life, right? Like if you start having a conversation and they're talking about they're in film school, they make movies, they write scripts and all this kind of stuff, and you're mesmerized. And like I was always like that. I'm like, oh, you do that, right? When people do really creative things, I get really excited because I know the level of concentration that it takes along with the creative mindset. It's a weird combination to actually be consistent and follow through. And when you see a person able to do the creative mindset and then be consistent and follow through, for me, it's very stimulating, and it also propels and pushes me forward. And I get excited about that, right? And so like think about that when you meet people, or when you have conversations with them, or when you're in relation with them in some kind of way, how much do they care about what you have going on? Like, how much are they interested in it? I've been around some people at different times who were bringing up my dreams and stuff more than I could remember. And the fact that they were a constant reminder to things that I really wanted to accomplish or do, and they wanted to see me happy and they wanted to see me grow, it really improved things. It really impacted me in a positive way, right? Because it's like that, and it really impacted me. So you just got to remember that you'll feel that even exchange of energy, that somebody truly cares about what you're doing and you care about what they're doing, and it's a back and forth kind of thing. Because sometimes you can meet people, potential friends and stuff, and they'll really show you that they'll just dump their whole I want to do this, be this, blah, 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 and you're just like, that's amazing, that's wonderful. And sometimes, like, I don't know, in the past I have walked away feeling exhausted, and I'm just like, what happened just now? And I realized what happened was that there was not an even energetic exchange. So that's something you want to pay close attention to, right? If you're working on something, you're doing things that light you up, you should be around people that also get excited that you're lit up because of those things, because they know that a better version of you makes a better friendship and makes a better connection, right? Something else that I noticed too is like what do you, like if you were looking to make sure that you were in mutually beneficial, I guess, friendships or connections, right? Is whether or not excuse me, is whether or not someone thinks is whether or not someone is happy for like things you have going on. So this goes outside of like just even bringing it up in conversation. I think that's the first kind of pay attention. I wouldn't say red flag, but just pay attention, right? Like, when you say, okay, I'm up for this promotion at work, or I'm working on a new book, I'm working on a new project with some friends, it's a collaboration effort, I'm working on like all these different things, I'm working on saving to do this kind of thing, I want to, create this, I want to do this. If they're not like encouraging and excited about those things that you're talking about, like your goals, like some of the things that are important to you, you want to you always want to make sure that you're paying attention to that, because I think that's a big deal, right? Sometimes we just like, well, I can build my own projects up, I can build my own thing up, and while we can do that, if we decide to hang around other people, and if we choose to have other people in our spaces or friendships and stuff like that, we have to be really clear on whether or not that connection is going to dampen those other things that that we're excited about that are happening, right? And I find this because this is something that happened, I guess, I don't know, I can think back to being married the first time, and something that was noticed regularly was every time there was something important or big happening in my life, on the other end, there would be some kind of a blow up, like to just mess up all the plans, right? So it's like you're chucking along and everybody seems like, they're okay, and like friendships and stuff like that. And then you're just like, oh, I have this thing coming up, I'm really excited, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, oh, I'll be there for you, blah, blah, blah. And they're just, going on and on about it. And then you notice like, like within a week before this thing is coming up, this person is angry, they're picking fights with you for no reason, they have negative things to say, their energy has pulled back, and you're just like, what is happening, right? And so you just want to keep that in mind, like how are people when it comes to your big announcements, right? Because I always make it my business to go all in when it comes to what people are working on. If they're like I don't know, all kinds of things. I have people in my family have graduated from college and stuff like that, and I'm like, buying the desk set of things like, you can put at like in an office space. We act like once people get a college degree, that means they're automatically be sitting at a desk, and that's just not true. But like that kind of thing, like I remember I got a monogram picture frame for one of my siblings too. Also, that was really nice, and just like just something that sort of like solidifies you're there, you made it, look at this great thing that you've worked on, and look how beautiful the outcome is, right? So you just want to make sure that there's some type of catering to it. This is not to mean that what you're doing is all it's all somebody has time to think about, like, but something they're doing, right? Because I always make sure I come in with that. I've had like moments where people needed like things for like their graduation and stuff, like maybe a cap and gown, or like a frame for their degree or whatever, or like any kind of little things like that. And like they have this dream of opening a big store, and so you buy like a little symbolizing a little item to symbolize it, right? So it's like because whenever I'm talking about something that I think is important in a connection or important in a friendship, I always look back to say, and like, oh, did you do that? Did you do these things that you think are important? And generally the answer is yes. But I think the biggest problem that we have sometimes is that when people come around, we're not necessarily vetting them fully. We're just looking like, oh, cool, attention, a new person, it's exciting, let's go hang out at Starbucks. And while those things can be fun, you really have to start qualifying people a lot more, and not just have them around for the sake of having them around, right? Something else that I noticed was very important in like when you're looking for friendships and stuff like that, listen to how they've treated or connected with the people in their past, right? Because that's not to say they didn't have moments where they had to cut people off and then move on and stuff, because I think we've all had those moments, right? There's nothing wrong with that. But just think about like, how do people discuss the people from their past, like their old friendships and their connections, right? Because I've been around people who everybody they talk about that there was in their past a friendship, a connection, it was something negative. And it's always like, they were like this, that, and that, and that. And I'm just like, well, why were you even hanging with them? But then now the wisdom in me tells me, if somebody's saying that and those things, and they spend all that time being in friendship or relationship with someone else, that's why I was always with relationships too. Make sure that that's a red flag for me. Like if somebody's telling you everything negative about the person that they were with, and they don't really have anything good to say about them, and they can't really say how the person was valuable in their life in any kind of way or something like that. You really got to watch that, because they may be a very one-sided person, and one-sided people are so difficult because they really can't clearly see anything from another perspective. It's like either their way or that's it. Like they can't open their mind to see life from another perspective. So whenever they come around and they're starting to talk about all these people in their past as negative and all, you're just like, well, that was your best friend. Well, that was your, your wife. Well, that was your kid. Like these little things come up. You're just like, well, what are you going to say about me? Like, what would you, so you got to keep in mind that you're not special in that scenario. And I think a lot of people get that mixed up. They think because the person is talking to them about the other people that makes them special, but it really, really doesn't. So you just have to keep in mind, like, how do they discuss the people that they once loved, or the people that they once were connected to, or the people that they once looked to for for counseling or confidence, or had these deep conversations with. Like, how do they speak about these people in their space, right? Because just know that it'll probably be the same way that you're being spoken about in another space, right? I had something else in mind, but I kind of lost the thought because I didn't have an ink pen. I'm not in my own vehicle. I didn't have an ink pen or paper because I normally write things down, but this kind of just it kind of just stuck out in my head, because that's a kind of the place that I am in my life, where I am in the process of attracting more people that, are similar, like they say, your tribe, right? People that are like-minded to some degree, people that, have a very expanded view of life and are evolved in a lot of emotional ways and stuff. And so when I was thinking just now, I was getting coffee and I was just like, how have you ever qualified people in order to be a part of your friendships and all that? And I was like, I really didn't. I really always kind of had this thought that my thought process was such on a level, and my thinking and my understanding of the world was such on a level that most people didn't get it anyway. And because most people didn't get it anyway, that wasn't enough for me to say, oh, well, we're not gonna, but that's kind of like a story that we sometimes tell ourselves that's not exactly true, because we haven't had access to these people and we haven't made these connections. We're just going off of historical information. So we might be like, oh, well, people are not that, they don't really think on a depth that I do. So I'll just make friends that are, but this is the problem. When you bring those people around, you can't have any real deep and meaningful connected conversations with them, because you're just believing that, well, people just don't think deeply and all that. I've had all kinds of friends who I knew were mismatched. But because I'm so open and okay with other people's lifestyles and all, it doesn't really create a barrier for me to think really differently from someone. It just means that in that area, we just won't mix on that topic. And I'm good with that. But that's not always the case for everyone. They need to have you lock in step with what they're doing. Otherwise, they don't feel connected to you. And there's nothing wrong with that either. I've had friends who are like deeply religious. Every time I talk to them, they will always invite me to the church, always trying to get me to go to this event, and I'm just like, what about me says that I want to go do that? But I realized it was mostly because I wasn't qualifying people. I was just like, well, they're nice. That's good. They're nice, And sometimes we have to do that. Especially with this modern phenomena, which I don't think it's modern, this idea of people love bombing you. I don't think that's even just in relationships. I think that's in friendships too. I think that's just the way people do when they first get around you. You're just amazing, and you have this to offer, and you have that to offer. You can do this, you can do that. You're just so amazing. You're just like exactly what I was looking for. I always tell people, red flag. When somebody says that, that means that they have not been able to see the value in anybody they've come across before you. Because there's like, nobody is that great, right? So we like to think, oh, I'm so amazing. So yeah, they're validating me. They're confirming it, right? Well, I mean, we're great to a certain extent, but nobody's so great that someone has been searching their whole entire lives to find a friend like them, or to find a boyfriend like them, or to find a girlfriend like them, right? And so when people say that kind of stuff really quickly, you have to remember that is like a trauma that they're working in, right? And then also you're being sucked in by this like popular energy. Like you're like, oh, I'm so popular, they like me so much. But sometimes when people do that whole love bombing thing, especially friendships, relationships, whatever it is, it doesn't give you the space and the opportunity to say, wait, step back. Do I really like what I see in this person? These are the characteristics that are important to me, right? And I think we have to stop doing that. The minute we meet people, we just throw stuff out of the window. We just like, I know this thing is important to me, we just throw it out of the window. But I think that when you're still in the mode of just throwing important things about yourself out of the window, you haven't really grown into the space of attracting that thing that you think is so important in your life. Because if you don't see it, the strength in you would just go the other way. But the fact that we try to compromise our way into a hole sometimes lets us know that we really weren't ready for that thing that we said that we wanted, right? Because we didn't believe it really existed, because we were so busy trying to make this new friend fit into the box of this thing that we think is so important, right? Anyway, I think I kind of rambled on enough with that. I just wanted to post a video because I hadn't posted one in a while. And while life is good, you know, I have so many new things on the horizon as far as what's being created. And I'll tell you one thing about friendships and stuff. Sometimes we get annoyed because I've had people that were friends for a while and like they just disconnected to some degree or something. I'm just like, oh, what happened with that? But we always think that people are supposed to be dragged through our whole entire life and existence, right? We're like the leading role in our stories and our movies. And sometimes we have to remember that every character in the movie doesn't make it to the closing credits, right? Every character doesn't make it to the closing credits. And thank God that every character that wasn't in at the opening credits isn't the only ones that we can have until the ending credits, right? Some people were just playing that little role. They're like the passerby. They're like, you know, man one, man two. You know, you read the script in the back, you know, friend one, friend two. And there's nothing negative from that mindset. It just lets you know that, as my mom shared in a message the other day, and it's a saying that I'm very accustomed to, a season and a reason, right? Sometimes we have this whole idea that when we come in congregation with other people, that somehow that relationship or that thing that we're forming is supposed to take us all the way to all through the phases, right? And I can tell you this, I've met people and known, and whether it was a relationship or a friendship or whatever, whether they could come with me to where I was headed. I've known it. And sometimes I ignored it because I was just not feeling completely solidified in where I was going. And sometimes people, these friendships, they do you a favor. And sometimes we're just mad because the other person was strong enough to do the favor first. But really they do you a favor because they really couldn't go with you to where you're headed, right? I used to always think about that. I would date people and I would try to picture them in academic situations, like at the university and all that, and whether they would be able to fit in or feel intimidated in that environment. And a lot of times I would see that they would be completely intimidated in the environment, and I would be like, oh, well, maybe they'll grow into, you know, being more secure around all types of people, right? But you can feel the type of people you can bring around and mix and mingle with the other, because this is the thing, when you have people that know you well and know your value and that knows the biggest version of you, when they meet these people that you bring around, whether it's a friendship, whether it's a relationship or whatever, they'll tell you real quick whether or not the person is somebody that you can be with the long term or you can build a good friendship with, right? So just keep that in mind. Sometimes we do know and we just choose not to, and it's all good. But know now that it's holding you up from those people, places, and things that will really complement your life. And you all have a wonderful, wonderful day.